Before highways carved the land, before neon signs lit the night, there was this, a quieter Wisconsin. We dug deep into the archives to bring you photos that defy time. Some are strange, some are serene, but all of them whisper the past into your ears. Madison, Wisconsin, from the Capitol Dome, 1900. Bird's-eye panorama from the Wisconsin State Capitol Dome looks along a radial street toward Lake Monona. Dense blocks of frame houses and brick commercial buildings line the avenue. Church spires and streetcar tracks punctuate the scene. The isthmus and shoreline appear beyond, capturing Madison's late 19th century urban fabric vividly. Milwaukee Bundessturnhalle, 1900. Inside Milwaukee's National Gymnastics Hall, turners pose among rings, parallel bars, a pommel horse, ropes, and a high bar beneath tall arched windows. Second from left is George Brosius, the city's pioneering Turnverein leader. The ordered apparatus and formal stance capture the German immigrant culture of physical training at the turn of the century. Looking south on Water Street from Milwaukee City Hall, 1900. Elevated from the City Hall Tower, this turn-of-the-century view looks south along Water Street toward the Milwaukee River. Brick commercial blocks with striped awnings line the corridor, their facades plastered with billboards, including Espenhain Dry Goods and Kuhn brand. Streetcars share the roadway with horse-drawn wagons as coal smoke drifts over downtown. Looking east along Wells Street from Milwaukee City Hall, 1900. Shot from the City Hall Tower in winter, this view looks east along Wells Street toward the East Town Cathedral Square district. A corridor of small frame houses and brick storefronts leads to a cluster of institutional buildings, with several church spires rising over the neighborhood. Bare trees and light snow accent the rooflines, while utility poles and streetcar tracks trace Wells Street below. Kiel Blacksmith Shop, 1900. Around 1900, the Henschel Blacksmith Shop in Kiel bustled with heat and hammering. 2 men and a horse stand inside, surrounded by anvils, tools, and timber beams. Located on Fremont Street, this humble shop reflects the indispensable trade that kept Wisconsin's farms, wagons, and communities moving at the dawn of a new century. Bar at the Kiel Hotel, 1900. Inside the Kiel Hotel around 1900, a woman stands behind the polished wooden bar surrounded by ceramic spines and an old-style lager sign. Built in 1856 as the Fremont Hotel, this gathering place echoed with stories and laughter until its fiery end in 1924. A true Wisconsin landmark. Log sleds on Wisconsin Avenue, 1900. Neenah's streets echoed with the creak of log sleds. Teams of horses hauled timber down Wisconsin Avenue, passing the Herman Ansbach department store and a waiting streetcar. This wintry scene reflects the lumber trade that fueled Wisconsin's growth, where industry and daily life moved side by side. Lindner Brothers Marble Works, 1900. The Lindner Brothers Marble Works stood on 7th Street in Kiel, its windows filled with headstones and monuments. 3 men pose proudly outside, while a Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul rail car rests nearby. This image captures industry, craftsmanship, and the lifelines of rail that connected Wisconsin towns.
Today, at this very moment, are you enjoying this nostalgic trip? Like and subscribe now to follow all 50 U.S. states in rare, colorized photos. Don't miss the rest of the journey.
Bank of Evansville, 1900. The Bank of Evansville stood as a landmark in Rock County. Its domed corner tower and brick facade reflected both ambition and security in a growing town. Though the building was razed in 1951, this photograph preserves a symbol of Wisconsin's small-town prosperity at the century's turn. Alaska House in Manitowoc, 1899. The Alaska House welcomed workers and travelers to Manitowoc. Run by Conrad Meyer on North 9th Street, this short-lived rooming house reflected the city's industrial pulse. Photographer Herman C. Benke captured men standing proudly outside, embodying the spirit of community and resilience in Wisconsin's late 19th century. Madison from the Capitol Dome, 1899. Sweeping view from the dome of Wisconsin's second state capitol. The camera looks across downtown Madison toward the Isthmus and the University of Wisconsin campus. Tree-shaded streets, church spires, frame houses, and brick commercial blocks lead to the distant lakeshore, capturing a growing capital city at century's end. Park Street, between Main and Exchange, Kenosha, 1899. Pre-paving view of Park Street showing H.C. Schultz Hardware, Scholler and Funk Grocer/Warehouse, and the Kimball and Crawl livery stable. In the center foreground stands the C.A. Dewey hardware delivery wagon, driven by Frank D. Barnes. Photograph by C.E. Dewey. University Heights from University of Wisconsin Chemistry Building, 1898. Photographed in 1898 by Charles E. Brown, this elevated view from the UW Chemistry Building looks west across University Avenue toward the emerging University Heights neighborhood. Fields and scattered frame houses fill the ridge, while the University of Wisconsin's football field occupies former Camp Randall grounds years before the stadium rose. Cannon Salute on Market Square, Kenosha, 1898. On May 1, 1898, townspeople gather as a field gun on Market Square fires east, saluting Admiral George Dewey's victory at Manila. The view captures unpaved streets, Bain Wagon Company lumber sheds, and a railroad crossing sign for the spur to Pettit Malt House. First Street pavement on Main Street, Kenosha, 1898. Photographed by L.M. Thiers on May 12, 1898, this view looks north from Main and South Streets, 6th Avenue and 59th Street. Brick storefronts with awnings and flags line the corridor. Utility poles frame the scene, and the smooth roadway records Kenosha's First Street pavement. August F. Cool livery in Manitowoc, 1898. August F. Cool's livery on South Main Street had become one of Manitowoc's finest. Beyond boarding horses and hiring carriages, Cool offered full undertaking services, note the hearse at the left. His thriving enterprise reflects Wisconsin's blend of tradition and innovation as communities grew into the modern age. Panoramic view of Manitowoc, 1897. This panoramic view captures Manitowoc at the height of its industrial rise. Smokestacks mark factories tied to Lake Michigan trade, while rows of homes spread across the foreground. It's a rare snapshot of Wisconsin Port City, balancing industry, community, and the promise of modern progress. Main Street, Woonawak, 1892. In 1892, Woonawak's Main Street presented a new brick face, arcaded cornices, tall display windows, wooden sidewalks, and deep awnings shading goods. A road of packed earth carries a cart and lingering figures. The little Juneau County town poses confidently, a frontier streetscape maturing into permanence, commerce, and afternoon light. Building Kiel's Steel Bridge, 1891. In 1891, nearly 20 men posed atop a new steel bridge rising over Kiel's waters. Supported by brick piers and wooden scaffolds, the structure embodied modern progress. One daring worker perched on the cross cables, reminding us of the grit and danger behind Wisconsin's leap into an industrial future. Rock's Tavern in Kiel, 1890. Patrons gathered inside Rock's Tavern on Fremont Street. Two men in long fur coats lean against the bar, while others inspect new Victor record players, a glimpse of modern entertainment. A pot-bellied stove warms the room, capturing the spirit of Wisconsin taverns as social anchors of small-town life. RC File Machine and Repair Shop in Kiel, 1890. Four men stood proudly outside the RC File Machine and Repair Shop on Fremont Street in Kiel. This modest wooden building housed essential tools and skilled labor, keeping farm machinery and local industries running. It captures Wisconsin's leap into a new era of mechanical progress. Stoll Cedar Shingle Manufacturing, 1890. Workers pause for a photograph outside Stoll Cedar Shingle Manufacturing on Payne Street in Kiel. Surrounded by cedar stacks and horse-drawn wagons, they produced shingles that roofed homes across Wisconsin. This 1890 image preserves the grit and teamwork behind one of the state's vital lumber trades. Alice Reliance Works, Southside, Milwaukee, 1890. A wide view of Alice Reliance Works in 1890 shows a long, timber-clad factory with clerestory windows, docks, and workers along unpaved South Side streets. The complex stood between South Clinton, now South First, and South Barclay streets, stretching from East Florida Street to East National Avenue, evidence of Milwaukee's industry. View from Bascom Hill toward the Wisconsin State Capitol, 1890. Taken around 1890 by H.D. Nichols, this panoramic view looks east from the crest of UW-Madison's Bascom Hill. A straight, worn footpath descends between rows of leafless trees and wooden fences toward the growing city. Church spires and the Wisconsin State Capitol punctuate the skyline beyond the university buildings. Southward view from Capitol Dome, Madison, 1890. Southward view from the Wisconsin State Capitol Dome captures West Main Street between South Hamilton Street and Monona Avenue, today Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Frame and brick blocks line a hillside with Lake Monona behind. None of these structures survive, replaced by county and state offices. Holman Cooperative Creamery, Holman, 1889. Wagons line up outside the Holman Cooperative Creamery on Long Coulee Road. Teamsters wait beside horses while workers move milk cans into a wooden plant with a tall smokestack. Wisconsin was shifting from wheat to dairy. Cooperatives like this turned local milk into butter, cheese, and prosperity. Powell Place, La Crosse, 1887. Powell Place anchored La Crosse's streetscape, its brick cornice shouting, "Dr. Frank Powell" to passers-by. Window signs promise a surgeon's services. Below, the Boston store dresses the corner. Utility poles, packed snow, and distant smokestacks frame a city balancing commerce and care, advertising expertise along a frontier avenue. Gimbel Brothers Department Store, Grand Avenue, 1887. Early view of the first Gimbel Brothers department store in Milwaukee, opened in 1887 on Grand Avenue, now Wisconsin Avenue. The tall, sign-splashed facade advertises gloves, carpets, curtains, and toys above bustling streetcar tracks and crowded sidewalks. The image captures the emerging retail corridor that anchored downtown commerce for decades. Paul Weiss Upholstery Shop, Farwell and Albion, Milwaukee, 1886. A two-story frame storefront signed Upholsterer marks Paul Weiss's shop in 1886 at the northeast corner of Farwell Avenue and East Albion Street. Family and workers pose outside beside hitching posts and a horse-drawn wagon. The front room served customers, a workshop stood behind, with the family's residence at rear. Main Street Meat Market, La Crosse, 1885. La Crosse's Main Street Meat Market drew customers beneath a wooden awning and shade trees. Horse-drawn wagons clattered past, a buggy waiting at curbside. Butcher signs share space with J.A. Morrison Tobacco next door. Everyday commerce, rivertown dust, and summer light mingle, preserving Wisconsin's small city rhythms. Empire Brewery and Hess and Schmidt livery on State Street, Madison, 1883. Looking across State Street toward two bustling businesses. At left stands the Hess and Schmidt livery boarding and sale stable. At right, the Empire Brewery. Wagons and buggies cluster along the curb while workers and patrons gather outside. Three women appear in the brewery doorway, capturing everyday commercial life in 1880s Madison. Pettibone Block Fire in Neenah, 1883. On January 14, 1883, flames tore through the Pettibone Block at Wisconsin Avenue and Commercial Street. The blaze consumed the National Bank of Neenah and Elwer's drugstore, leaving only charred walls behind. This haunting image shows both devastation and resilience as the city rebuilt from ashes into a stronger community. Monona Lake Assembly Casino, Madison, 1880. Lakeside Pavilion Complex known as the Casino at the Monona Lake Assembly, Madison. Under shade trees, visitors strolled boardwalks beside a rock-edged pond. A sign promises ice cream soda. Designed by Conover and Porter with ice house and service wing, the resort hosted Chautauqua-style programs that expanded beyond Sunday school teacher training. Water Street, Eau Claire, 1879. This view of Eau Claire's Water Street in 1879 captures the bustling town before disaster struck. Wooden storefronts line the road, while a tall tower dominates the scene. Within just a year, a devastating fire would sweep through, erasing much of this streetscape and reshaping the city's history forever. Market Square, Kenosha, 1875. A dense crowd and horse-drawn vehicles pack Kenosha's Market Square for an early Independence Day parade. Men in top hats gather before storefronts along Main, William Ernst's Grocery, C.W. Borkenhagen's Saloon, H.M. Rogers Books, Schroeder and Dunback Harness, and R. Simmons Dry Goods with Simmons Hall above. Grand Avenue West, Kenosha, 1870. Elevated view of Grand Avenue West in 1870 shows dirt streets, plank sidewalks, and a wooden bridge spanning Pike Creek. At left, the large structure with lean-tos is among the first buildings of the N.R. Allen Sons Tannery. Houses and outbuildings line the creek, reflecting Kenosha's early industrial landscape. Union Depot at Reed and South Water Streets, Milwaukee, 1869. A panoramic view of Milwaukee's Union Depot shows a St. Paul Railroad train beside platforms, horse-drawn streetcars, and wagons crowding South Water Street. Smokestacks and warehouses line the riverfront. The station stood at Reed and South Water, today South 2nd and West Seaboth, a gateway for travelers and freight. Ulysses S. Grant in Wisconsin, 1868. In 1868, future President Ulysses S. Grant was photographed in City Point, Wisconsin, alongside his wife Julia and their young son. Far from the battlefields of the Civil War, this quiet portrait reveals a more personal side of the Union's commanding general, seated humbly before a wooden home. View of Mineral Point, 1864. One of Wisconsin's earliest photographs, this 1864 view captures Mineral Point at the height of its lead mining boom. Stone buildings rise above the hills, testifying to the Welsh immigrants who carved both rock and community here. It remains a rare glimpse into one of the state's pioneer towns. Pinckney Street with Burns Block and American House, 1860. View of Madison looking along Pinckney Street. Burns Block and the American House dominate the row of multi-story brick storefronts. The unpaved thoroughfare is crowded with horse-drawn wagons, hitching posts, pedestrians, and stacked building materials. Signboards and awnings line the sidewalks, evoking the city's bustling, early commercial core. Pinckney Street between Washington Avenue and Main Street, 1859. View of Madison looking along Pinckney Street between Washington Avenue and Main Street. A white picket fence and leafless trees line the foreground. Behind them stand early two-story shops and boarding houses, their signboards L. Guild, C. N. Kittredge visible. The image captures the town's modest commercial core before growth. Pullman Bakery, Milwaukee's Upper East Side, 1853. Bakers and helpers pose on a clapboard storefront's porch while a boy peers from an upper window. A wagon labeled bread and rolls stands curbside, signaling deliveries. Known as the Bakery on Becker, this early shop served Milwaukee's Upper East Side, reportedly the neighborhood's first bakery in Wisconsin. Wisconsin was never just a place. It was steam over rooftops, footsteps on wood, the quiet echo of wagons before the world roared. These streets are gone, but they remember you. And if you listened closely, maybe now you remember them too.